You spoke about the erosion of Zionism in America. Do you not contribute to such erosion by highlighting the many sins of Israel in the matter you do?
No, because, to be blunt, American Jews and American non-Jews don't need me to tell them that there are very disturbing things happening in Israel with regard to the future of the two-state solution. This is not news. They can read the Israeli newspapers. You now provide a lot of them in English, and people read those newspapers. They can read Israelis themselves. They can read people like Talia Sasson, one of the experts on the settlements, who said in an interview recently, quote, about this Israeli government, this Israeli prime minister, he's destroying the future of the state. He's finishing the state. There'll be a single state from the Jordan to the sea. That wasn't me. They can read Tzipi Livni when she said in a speech several weeks ago, Israel is on a volcano. The existence of a democratic Jewish state is in mortal danger. I think one of the things that alienates young American Jews, in addition to the illiteracy that many of us have spoken about, is the fact that the things that they see in the newspapers, the things that they hear Israelis speaking about, they don't hear American Jewish leaders speaking about with the same level of candor. And it is their alienation from the sense that they had been raised to believe that being Jewish was partly about a spirit of free and critical inquiry, and seeing that that does not exist in their own Jewish community, I think, which is far more alienating. And the thing which will alienate young American Jews from Zionism, in addition to their alienation from Judaism, is the failure of Israel to survive as a democratic Jewish state, the failure of Israel to become again a country that offers the right of citizenship to all the people under its domain in the spirit of the principles of Israel's Declaration of Independence. And I think those of us who criticize from a Zionist point of view are trying to forestall that day.
Sure.
It's obvious, it's not Peter's fault.
You'll need to speak closer, to be closer to the microphone.
All right, is this better?
Yeah,
okay,
it's
look,
better now.
the problem, it seems to me, among American Jewry, hey, this would be a good time to turn off your cell phone. American Jews have forgotten how to defend Israel at the level of first principles. They know about Ulpana, and they know about Mofaz, and they know about the two-state solution. They do not know anything anymore about the philosophical and historical first principles. Meaning, if you ask how many if you ask an American Jew why defend Israel, here is what they will not tell you. They will not tell you that one must defend and love Israel because there is this people called the Jewish people, and it is one of the most ancient peoples in the world, and it is a civilization of its own that has diverged and converged along with other civilizations. And this people went through its extraordinary history, and there came a point when it was deemed that every nation should have a state. And because the Jews were a people, they defined themselves as a nation, and because they were a nation, they deserved a state. And so they developed a national liberation movement that had nothing whatsoever for the time being to do with anything God said to Abraham or Moses. And as a consequence of their national liberation movement, they developed a state. And these are the principles of the state, and that is why Israel needs to be supported. Not because Tzipi Livni lost, or because Bibi's got 94 votes, or because Obama is or is not the first American Jewish president. American Jews have been overwhelmed by the trivia and the transient, fleeting nonsense of news, and have forgotten the first principles, and that's what needs to be used.
Peter mentioned American Jewish leadership. I guess that is you. If Americans, as Leon said, forgot the first principles of how to speak about Zionism in Israel, isn't that a failure of American Jewish leadership?
Well, it is a failure of both of our communities. And that is, my argument, and what Leon said basically is, the issue of young Jews is not their liberalism. The issue that we have is their ignorance. And we have failed. we have failed as a Jewish community in truncating the education of our children. Most of us, I don't speak for everybody, but most of us have failed, that we truncated Jewish education of our children at the age of 12 and 13, at a time when they started becoming young adults. And they were finished being Jewish, and then they got to college and campus, and all of a sudden we started crying and bemoaning, how come they're not Jewish? How come they don't defend? Well, Peter's answer is because Israel isn't liberal enough, because Israel doesn't live up to liberal standards. And in fact, the sad truth is we have failed in the education. But I would say to you, we have jointly failed. We have jointly failed. And what I heard from Pierre, you're saying if we weren't specific on expectations, if we use that word, is I heard one thing, but I would add another. Pierre talked about security, that we failed providing, at least in this case, the help, the backup, the finances for the safety and security of communities which are exposed and are in danger. And I think maybe coming out of here is a re-examination of what are the expectations between the communities. Israel does have a role, has assumed a role in Misgeret and in otherwise. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe we need to involve the American Jewish community as well. But probably more important in terms of expectations is in education, where I say we have failed. And I'm going to finish by one recommendation. For a long, long time, it's been easier for American Jews to raise money on the back of Israel. It's almost impossible for American Jews to be motivated to raise money for Jewish education. My suggestion for the next slide, since Israel today, thank God, has its philanthropic institutions, it has Israelis who are beginning to understand that they need to give back. Why not say to the American Jewish community, for the next 5 years, you raise money for us, and we will reinvest, let's say $500 million a year for 5 years, which is $2.5 million, in the infrastructure and scholarships for Jewish kids to become Jewish, to guarantee the future relationships of our community. We've seen it in Tavlin, we've seen it in Birthright, a $3,000 investment in Jewish kids who are ignorant, Jewish kids who aren't sure how Jewish they are. Look at the payback we've already seen in the last 5 years. And maybe that's the expectations, for both of us to say, we're not raising money for you, we're raising money for both of us. And to invest in the infrastructure of schools and mostly scholarships to guarantee so that the next generation, we won't need to discuss this issue as we're discussing it now.
Okay. We speak about money now, so here's the problem you have with me, okay? How do you convince me or any other Israeli, and those Israelis, let me remind you, 69% of them are just expecting you, Jews of France, to come to Israel, and you want us to take money out of our pockets, and instead of sending it to support the school system in Sderot, you want us to send this money to France. How would you convince Israelis to do something?
I have to recognize that up to now I totally failed, because as I'm also the president of the French Jewish Appeal, every year the Keren Hayesod president called me and say, how much you are going to send this year? That is a very important question and a very important negotiation. I will not, I want just to precise something, Abby. It's a priority to manage. We have a budget of 20 million euros in our community, in the institution that I had. One, we have to make a priority between Jewish identity, solidarity, Jewish education, Zionism, relation with Israel, sending through Birthright, which is a wonderful program. We have to pay a third of it. Last year, you know what? We decided to send zero, no one. We had a list of 400 kids that want to come on the Birthright program. I'm sorry, and I'm responsible. I said, this year, zero. Why? Because we have to build a home, old age home, because we need it urgently. The question of security, we are facing, it's a budget of about 3 million euros per year. But before, the infrastructure was very important. And we signed with the President Sarkozy at that time, 6 years ago, he was Minister of Interior, a budget of 18 million euros, $25 million. We get from the French government $25 million for the infrastructure. Now what I want to say, we are facing to choose on our budget to prioritize education, Jewish identity, relation with Israel, security, all of that. You're right. How can I convince the state of Israel to help to have more kids in the Jewish school? We have 30,000 kids in the Jewish schools. We have 250 schools. We receive from the French government about 56 million euros per year for the Jewish schools. But still, we have to finance a part. I will tell you very simply, you know what? If we don't reinforce the Jewish identity, if we not continue to send our kids to visit Israel, if we not finance the Jewish education that you mentioned we failed, for sure, we will have to lose every year, every decade, thousands of Jews. To lose them means they have no more relation with the Judaism and that. It's very simple, you know, it's like an old man with his son. Today, Israel is our son, and we are proud of it. I'm sorry to shock you, maybe to convince you. We are proud of you. You are what we built, we start to build, and especially what the American Jews built with their financial support, with their political support, especially the American Jews. We built, they built, we built Israel, and we are very proud of Israel. And we are like a father. And you know, when the father is old, is getting older and older, you have two kinds of sons. And I don't criticize anyone. There are those who say, let my father in a house, and one day I will receive a call, and they will say, unfortunately, your father passed away, it's over. And there is the sons who take care of his father, and to try to continue to have their Jewish identity there to reinforce, and maybe with one day, more live. That is the difference. And again, I just remind you the figure I gave you. 98% of the Israeli budget was financed, and the school in Sderot was financed by the diaspora, by the world Jewry. What we are talking for all the world Jewry and the program we present to the Prime Minister Netanyahu last year, which is unfortunately still, I think, on his office, but nothing new. It's a question of less than 1% of the budget of the Minister of Education to try to reinforce the Jewish identity and to continue to consider Israel as a center of the Jewish people. It's a question of choice. Maybe one day, as you feel already, there is Jews only in America, there is still some Jews in some small communities in Europe, but every year, less and less. I visit almost all the Jewish communities in Europe, and I can say you, if we don't build some community center, if we don't send some shlichim from Israel to teach Hebrew, if we don't do something, they will disappear, one by one, slowly, like a father the days.
Yeah, I'm at least half convinced. No, I think you did a pretty good job.
Well, I mean, I want to further that point a little bit, because the reason is that for decades, everyone else opened up their pockets for Israel.
Okay, but you will not be able to escape my question, though.
Oh.
Okay, so
Oh, gosh.
You'll speak
okay,
now.
well, but I do want to say it because it plays right into Leon's point about infantilization, and I do not believe, and I won't believe, that the French Jewish community is an elderly ancestor about to keel over and die. I think, in fact, that these are vibrant members of the same family, and need to help each other, and need to feel equivalent. This does need to be minced lublin, if that's the way you want to think about it. And And I think it's time for Israelis to understand that they have to play a role, and they have to step up too. They have to be part of this family in the way that everyone else has been.
And a question for you.